See John. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce him. As a matter of fact, in his previous life over at RKG, when I came out here last year, it gives you an idea in terms of what happens when you come out, is that I met John, found out about his expertise, found out about RKG, went back and hired him for the firm that I'm working with down on the Alabama Gulf Coast. And I tell you, he knew what he was talking about then. That firm that he was with was excellent. And now that he's over at Google, doing a lot of magical stuff over there. So John, I'm going to let you kick it off.
So this is the first time I've ever had space difficulties in a presentation and worried about my head the entire time. I'm usually a pretty moving speaker, so I'm a little concerned if at some point in time I just go out cold, someone help me out. So I'm going to start off and kick it off. I appreciate people coming down to a basement with no windows to talk about remarketing. That shows like a real level of dedication, because this certainly is not as sexy as anything that's happening upstairs at its core. But is it a bigger fundamental to success? Probably. I think we would agree that this is something that needs to be a fundamental and is evolving. It just doesn't get the coverage. So hopefully we can provide that. So I'm going to kick it off first because it's obligatory for us to throw Google stats out and give some information, just because we have data and we don't know what to do with it. So we throw it out in these presentations. We'll start there. Just because I'm not sure where the range is for remarketing. I'm guessing a lot of people are engaged, but we'll start out with why remarket, a very basic what is remarketing, and then we'll just up level it a couple times and maybe get people excited about certain things. You don't have to have the whole execution right now, but we can follow up, or we can look it up and find the information if one or two things catch your attention. So we'll start off with what travelers value. So as is pretty obvious and is part of the reason why we're all here, maybe even the main reason, is that travelers research online, and it happens in a lot of ways. And the percentage of people from a leisure perspective and a business perspective is pretty high as far as where you're going. So we see 60% of people say that they research their trips online, just from a research perspective, not even just a booking perspective. And then 69% of business travelers. So something to keep in mind for the CVBs, who are a lot of times looking to meeting planners and looking to business travelers, as well as looking to the leisure traveler. Understand that both parties are completely involved and tied in. And we can see that they also behaved certain ways because of ads that they saw online. So your ads are being effective. You can probably see that in a lot of your research, but the efforts that you're making online are generally some of your best direct response methods to be successful. Brainstorming, even the dreaming phase, coming up with where the destination might be, that might not happen as much with your with a business-specific traveler where things are already determined. But if you're coming up with an idea, you don't know where you want to go, you just know you need to get out of here. Usually the first place is online to find that inspiration. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a search engine, even though that's a pretty large portion, but it does mean your social networks. Anyone who was just in here, there was this great Google Plus thing that was just going, and I tried to cut my time to let her keep talking, but watching travel videos, so all of these different ways are keeping people engaged, and your online metrics are important, so we want to continue to do that. One of the ones to call out is that the watching a travel video, so some people talking about that recently, has continued to grow pretty dramatically. So 56% of travelers say they always start with their travel booking online, so it's constantly with a search. That's the first place that they'll go, is hit a search engine and start immediately looking right there for where they're going for travel. 63% of travelers agree that search engines are my go-to source, so that's where they're going to go and where things are going to start. And then from there, 96% of leisure travelers have started their hotel planning with a search. And that changes, you can see 95% for destinations, so that's a pretty high level as well. So for the destination specific, for our air, for our car, this is going to be the #1 place that you want to be, and I think you guys know that, but the research continues to support that. And this is really why we're here, and I think this has probably been shared, and if you've ever seen a Google presentation, we tend to throw this one out a lot, but this kind of explains why we even care about this, and it's that half started brainstorming and thinking about online, and that before they decided where or how to travel, this is where they go. This is where they live. So, maybe the days of the brochures in the hotel lobby and the guidebooks are slowing down a little bit. That's not necessarily the way that people are traveling. That's not the way people are searching. That's not the way people are gathering information. All of the information that's there is usually readily available with hundreds of thousands of reviews online, and the information has pictures and it has videos, and it's just a much more dynamic source, and basically everyone is holding it in their pocket. I think we have a stat out right now that over 1 million Android phones are activated every day. So we have a constant influx of people going in. I mean, let's just go to an Apple store and just look at the billion people lined up outside waiting to get the iPhone 5 still. I'm just saying the Google phone does all of those things though, and more. So that's required, I think, to say. But so let's look at the road to decision. So what does that look like? We obviously know everyone's online, all the stats supported, third party, our stats, everyone's stats. This conference supports the fact that everyone's online. But what's the road to decision look like? This is an actual path that was taken by someone who booked Galveston cruise, and it started like this over the course of quite a few weeks. And you can see the number of times we logged on to Google, we searched for cruises, went to tours, backed up, cruise.com. This is an actual path going through, and you can see the number of times and how long this process takes. This is part of the reason why, from a remarketing perspective, what we're really going to get into is this process right here. This is what your searchers are going through, and it probably looks familiar to a lot of you. Very rarely does anyone get their travel planning done for a leisure trip in one run. It takes multiple times finding the inspiration, finding where you want to go, finding the best value. Hunting value is always going to be a part of it as well. So this is kind of what we're trying to come up with, and it's 8.1 research sessions prior to a booking. So that's the number of times someone just sat down in front of a computer and was like, I want to put together this trip. Usually it's over 8 times before we actually get to the booking, where they sat down and got online. That's a long process, and if you're a destination and you're trying to inspire someone to pick your destination, you don't want to be just number 1, you want to be number 8.1. So you're trying to stay involved and stay in these people's minds for this entire process, and this process can last months and can last for a long time, and we want to make sure that we're always in that mindset. 17.4 average is the average number of travel sites that are visited. So just different sites that they hit over the course of time is 17. And then 4.3 search clicks. So from our perspective, you say, okay, make sure you're aware and you're relevant in search, because it's always going to start there. We see the stats that say it starts there, and we see they keep going back, and you can see people backing up and searching over and over again. So you want to stay in their mind when they're looking there. But then you also have to be aware that they're leaving and they're going to other sites, and you want to continue to stay relevant. And that only continues more. So I love this right here. This is kind of gives you a comparison of how people and how much searching and how much shopping is done before they make a purchase decision. For a car, it's 18.2 sources are confirmed. For a mortgage, it's 11.7. I really think people should take more time on their mortgages. For travel, it's 10.2. So that's a stat that we see is 10.2 different sources are consulted and considered before making their ultimate purchase. And then my favorite is dish soap, household dish soap, 7 sources. 7 sources. Now that includes maybe going into the store, price shopping. Can I get this on Amazon for cheaper? Maybe I can. Ship my dish soap. So I mean, people, this is the kind of marketplace that we're in now. Even dish soap is going to be 7 searches. So you need to be relevant through that entire process. And then from a time perspective, about what you can pull out of this and what's the most useful is just to say, okay, at a month, you can see at a month before, which is kind of near the peak, when they started doing their shopping is 50% started a month before they actually did their trip. So sometimes that's pretty difficult for us when we're trying to be smart marketers, right? You're trying to say, hey, was this successful? We just ran this test campaign. For a marketer in the travel space, that's complicated, because you might have run it and those results might not actually hit for a month and a half later or 2 months later. And then for some of our results of, okay, we ran this whole marketing plan for this entire year, we don't actually get the numbers for visitation until 2 years later. I mean, that's a really complicated task, so sometimes you kind of have to just rely on data like this to say, okay, I understand that if I am looking for an impact, sometimes it's going to have to show up a little bit later than it is currently. So what does that mean specifically? So retargeting and remarketing is more specifically, it holds a general category of touching in multiple times and hitting multiple places, but basically we're going to look at remarketing and what that has to offer compared to other display advertising metrics. So online display programs, lots of people have done those. But what it does is it not only contributes to direct site traffic, you see the lift in site traffic from being aware and having people in remarketing, but it also lifts your search. It just lifts your entire marketing program to continue to stay in people's minds throughout their entire buying cycles. So what is remarketing? We'll start at this will be at the very basics as far as what it is. So like I mentioned, it's naturally a display form of advertising. This can be both your banner ads, your traditional banner ads that you're used to. It can also be text ads run on display networks, so the Google Display Network being one of the examples. But text ads related to the same concept. So that's really what we're working with right now. The basics of remarketing is you have someone come through and they don't necessarily have to search, but they come directly to your website. In this particular case, Pure Michigan is the winner. So they come through the website and then we cookie them. So once they're cookied, their computer's cookied, we know that they visited our web page. That gives us the ability to show them ads on the network later and allow us to continue to show ads when they visit other websites with different content. So we can continue Michigan, Pure Michigan in this case, can continue to stay relevant and continue to stay in the consumer's mind. And how does that fit into display advertising as a whole? Probably the best place to start. So if you're thinking about making the investment in display advertising, I think remarketing needs to be a must. This is a fundamental for all things. I would not come on, even if this was a interest or topics or display session purely, I would not come on and say everyone should be doing this necessarily. But remarketing and retargeting is something that everyone should absolutely be doing. This is the greatest fundamental. And you can see here from the bottom, what's the reason why? From a cost per conversion, it's the most effective display advertising you can do. This is generally, you have the most qualified customer you could possibly have, one that has already showed enough interest to spend time on your website. There is no more qualified customer. You could say it's soccer moms 25 to 64 with incomes over 110 with 2.5 kids. You could have all those details, but no one is more qualified than the person who's already decided that your website was worth visiting. So that's where we're going to start from a conversion perspective. You can see on the vertical axis, it's the best people. So let's make sure that we keep those people engaged and we don't lose those potential visitors and those potential tourists. So we'll start right from the top, basically hit show an ad, and the reason why we do that is because 96% of people who visit a website usually leave without converting. So you might have conversions on your site right now, you might not have made a strict conversion. But over the course of our data and the people that we work with, it's about 96% of the time, which is a pretty small number, and considering that this is a really effective marketing scheme, the fact that it's still resulting in 96% of people leaving, that's not a particularly successful, it doesn't seem successful when you look at numbers like that, but that leaves a very large pool of people that we want to continue to market to. So let's look at remarketing 1.0. So what are the steps for us to just go beyond the basics of just someone visits my site and that's it. I will continue to show them ads. What can we do beyond that? And that's making some distinctions about maybe where they're visiting on your site. So the first thing we'll look at too is budgets, and here's some of the best practices for budgets. Everyone has certain marketing budgets, and you have to make sure that you follow those. But let's increase your budget to make sure that you're taking advantage of all the visitors. Don't cut yourself short of people who have already expressed interest. Like I said, it's your most qualified market that you could potentially be advertising to, so don't give them up easily. As far as bids, increase your bids to increase your impression share. So make sure that you're reaching them. Don't try to, this isn't necessarily the place where you're trying to cut corners in your marketing to save $1 and push it somewhere else. This really is the place where you want to make sure that you keep engaging people who are interested and are interested in your product. From a geography perspective, if you're running remarketing right now, don't limit on your geography. So it might seem weird because you're maybe a more local destination, you're a drive market, so you don't have people flying as often. But why not? In this particular case, would you turn down a visitor from Alabama if you're in San Francisco? No, there's absolutely no reason not to. If they've already expressed interest in coming, they might be in the market, and they've made that clear to you. So let's continue to reach them. Language restrictions, same thing. If they came through an English channel or they came through another channel and came through your website, still a good market to stay with. They've expressed the interest. Ad scheduling, keep it on all the time, don't turn it off. And then for frequency caps, so some people will turn down their ads and not continue to show them all the time. This one I have varying degrees. This is Google's best practice is to turn off your frequency caps, because if it's a cost per click, if they're only paying when someone clicks on it, then what does it matter? You know, you might as well own the space and they can click on it if they want. If they don't, you don't pay for it. There's a relative creepy factor to this. Let's address the creepy factor in the room, everyone. This is a little creepy. You visited the website, and now Liz Claiborne is following me around all over the internet. But so there is an understanding of that, but keep that in mind, set that number high, because you're not paying for it otherwise. And while it does seem relatively creepy at times to follow around that specifically and follow people with ads across the internet, it still works. So it's kind of like, it's creepy, but it's working, so we're gonna keep doing it. So that's something to keep in mind, and you can set limitations, but look beyond that. And then all remarketing is not equal. So here, looking at where did someone go on the website. So if you've already done remarketing now, you're looking for some of the next steps or some of the fundamentals to set up, is to set different lists. You can build lists off of the cookies that people put on the website. Build different lists depending on where they go on the page. So for people who are CVBs and you're looking for your meeting planners and you're looking for conventions, those are huge. I mean, obviously, I don't need to tell you that. You know, hundreds of people coming to your destination, hundreds of people coming to a hotel, booking hotels, getting those people in market, those people might be more valuable to you than someone who just hit your homepage. Someone who just hit your homepage expressed very little information and potentially hasn't expressed more. So what you can do is set your cookies in different places on your website to take advantage of what people might already be interested in. So your meeting planners, if someone, this Bermuda example in the top right, they have a booking engine on their site. So you can, people who are already booking and they're trying to win that conversion at the end, we can get them differently. So also, we've heard some talk about YouTube. This is becoming more of an ecosystem. So you can actually remarket people who have seen your videos or seen your ads on YouTube and have them as part of a list across your entire platform. So something that you can add in and grow your overall list. And then recognize that any form of advertising you're doing now and bringing traffic to YouTube or TrueView, what that's going to do is only grow your remarketing list. So anyone that you bring in after that, this is just going to be continually re-giving. All the different efforts you make is going to grow this particular channel. So I'm going to jump into some 2.0 stuff and some things that kind of extend beyond. So if you've already done remarketing, but these are new things that Google's been rolling out, the point on these is if one or two of these catch your attention, then we can jump on it, we can find more information about it. Some of them, not all of them, are to be executed. You know, don't do all of these, and you don't need to do all of these, but one or two might catch your attention. The first is that Google has rolled out a new remarketing tag. So I mentioned that all the different pages have different values. So it used to be that we had a different cookie on every single page, and that can be really annoying. And for people thinking about getting into this space, that does seem very time consuming, and it is. So what we actually have now is you can just put one on. So people who have already done the diversified, you can consolidate down to one, and then people who are just getting into this, just use the new pixel now, and we can just put it in the footer, and we can do the separation later. We don't need to do individual coding, so your IT department doesn't look at you mean. For destinations, what does this mean? It means that it allows you to make distinctions between how you bid, who's more important to you, the bookers, the lookers, making those distinctions there. You can also change your creative. Someone who came to your homepage, maybe something general, someone looking to book, give them potentially an offer, something that can engage them and bring them back for them. So one of the other steps is, how many people are using Google Analytics right now? Good, most everybody. So this is something else that can be tied in. It's a little bit more complicated, but something to consider. It's a little more complicated is that you can tie in Google Analytics into your characteristics. So time on site, I'm sure, is something that a lot of you are measuring, or pages visited, or source. If someone came from Facebook, those users might be different. That can actually be incorporated into this marketing now. So if someone who stayed for 5 minutes, you might have someone really who's interested in going, you can potentially remarket to them differently than someone who just bounced. You know, maybe we don't want to hit the bounce traffic and you are looking for ways to squeeze budget. So this is a way too that you can now incorporate and use Google Analytics. Another one now is called Search Companion. I like to call Search Companion Mama Bear marketing. This is like you gave the user the opportunity to make the right decision and they messed up, so we're going to solve it. Basically, anywhere someone searches, Bing, Yahoo, Google now, if someone searches in your paid search ad shows, but they click on an organic listing. So you showed an ad, so they're a relevant user. In this case, I have Bermuda reviews up. Showed an ad, they didn't come, they didn't click, and then they go to an organic listing. So in this case, they go to the virtual tourist. You can actually show ads now immediately to them on the virtual tourist if it's in the Google Display Network. So they have showed enough that they're interested, but they didn't come to you, we can immediately start targeting them. Something that completely changes how we can approach that. So that's one of the ones that's pretty interesting, and we've started to see some very early success for. Similar users is another case that's now available in AdWords. This is if you want to quickly grow your remarketing. So you have your list of people and it's really successful. People have visited the site. One of the opportunities now, if you go into your remarketing lists, or whoever's running this goes into the remarketing list, you can add people who Google has identified are exactly like the list of people that you've already singled out. This is a group of people who haven't made it to your website yet, but they are remarkably similar to all the people who have come to your website. A way to grow this list if you don't feel like you have enough users yet to legitimately do this. So some great results as far as new users and click-through rate. And I'm sorry I'm running because I get a lot of brightly colored paper telling me I'm going too slowly. So I guess I'll wrap it up there. So there's a number of different features and a number of different things to be excited about, but really the thing to focus on, and I want you to take away, is that this has to be a part of your marketing program. It has to be something that you do now, considering the amount of time that people are spending online and the amount of time that you could easily lose somebody in the process. And now there's a lot of things, if you already are doing this, that can make it a lot more effective, can make you a lot more efficient, and can help grow this as part of your marketing plan. Thank you.
I think I have the opposite problem of John. I feel like I'm too short for this. Should have had like high heels. Thank you so much for coming to our session. John did a great job kind of introducing the whole concept of remarketing, specifically for destinations. I will take a look at the big data that makes this whole remarketing process possible and happening. But before I do that, I kind of wanted to talk about myself a little bit. Who doesn't like to talk about themselves, right? So this is me, and the artist is my daughter. And what can you tell about me just looking at this picture? So obviously my favorite color, according to the artist, is pink. I usually color coordinate my lipstick with my outfits that I wear, and my hair is most of the times completely messed up. But what else do you guys know about me? I live here locally. I'm based in San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a female, obviously, with all the pink around me. I have 2 children. I am a frequent traveler, both for work and leisure, and I usually try to fly United as much as possible, so I am a loyal, frequent flyer traveler. I usually stay at 4-star hotels whenever I can afford them. And in the last 3 months, I have traveled, again, a combination of both business and leisure to Orlando, Austin, Boston, Vegas, and Seattle. And I'm presently looking for trips to book for the next couple of months. Mexico for family vacation, Seattle for a trip with my mother and my daughter, and San Diego and New York for work. So knowing all this, if you are a marketer, if you have access to all this information about me, you obviously don't know my name, you don't know that I'm Sylvia Weiler or I work at Sojourn or any of my other personal information, but if you know all these characteristics about me, how valuable am I to you as a marketer? And if you are a destination that focuses on family travel and you can identify me and attract me to your destination and engage me in a conversation, or if you know that I'm in the market to go to any of those destinations, if it's one of yours, you want to reinforce the message and make sure I do come to you. If you're one of their competitors, you definitely want to talk to me as well, because you want to steal me from some of the other people that I can potentially go visit. So with that in mind, if you have access to all this information about me, it is extremely valuable to be able to start communicating and engaging me with your message that is very relevant and speaks to exactly what I'm interested in personally as a traveler. So now, oh, and I forgot to say that I usually stay 3 to 4 days when I travel. So with that in mind, imagine that you actually have access to many profiles just like mine, and you have access to so much data on travelers' behavior. Let's say 50 million plus every single month that you can get a read on what these people are shopping for and buying. And that's pretty much what big data is for you. So it's the opportunity and the ability to capture, to store, to curate, activate, analyze, and share very large amounts of addressable data that you can actually use to your advantage and customize your messaging as a destination or as an attraction and engage the right people who you really want to be talking to as opposed to just anybody out there in the online universe. So remarketing, and especially like first-party data remarketing, which means using your own website, or if you're a publisher or if you're an OTA, your own website to remarket to people who have visited you, and a lot of this is what John talked about earlier. That is something that is all around us. Every single industry pretty much uses this today, and I wanted to just to kind of introduce you and remind you how common that is already. Show some examples. So Zappos, one of the best examples. I'm sure that every single person that has ever been on Zappos have within 5 minutes or an hour after leaving their site has been followed by a Zappos ad. And what I love about what they do is they actually, every single time when they remarket to you, they tell you why they're doing it. And it's kind of a fun way to, to say that, hey, some people prefer rainbows and some prefer unicorns. And the whole idea is that advertising is all around us. We cannot escape it, but why not make it relevant? Why not actually see an ad that really matters to you? And yes, it is a little creepy, and sometimes people that are not so engaged and involved in the whole remarketing and big data process, even people in my own family will be like, how did I know? Well, we know everything, of course, but it is relevant, right? And it matters, and it's useful. And so how many times have I to admit, been to Zappos and I left my shopping cart and I abandoned it with that pair of sandals that I really wanted but didn't need, and they followed me and they reminded me that they're still there and they're still on sale, and I ended up buying them. Again, I did not need them, but I really wanted them, so hey, it works, exactly to what John was saying earlier. Target, another great example of how they're using data on their own website to follow you around and say, hey, you just bought one thing. Here's something else that goes with it. So, just a great opportunity to upsell and cross-sell. Amazon, one of the greatest examples. Not only they know what you are shopping for and recommending things based on that, but they're also telling you what other people are interested in and do the lookalike modeling to say, hey, here's some other great ideas that you didn't think about. So again, it's in every single area around us. It's a huge part of people's marketing efforts. In travel, I told you earlier when I was talking about myself, and thanks for listening, that I'm in the market right now looking for flights to New York. I did obviously shop on United because I wanted to fly them. They knew that, so they followed me within a day, trying to remind me that they do have great offers and sale fares to New York, encouraging me to go. They also knew that I was looking for Mexico, so why not show me some great sale pricing that they have to Hawaii. So this is an opportunity again for competitive marketing, using the knowledge that they collected by me visiting their website and trying to influence my future behavior with something that they wanted me to consider. So in travel, though, and again, John made a great point in his presentation, people usually don't go to just one source for their trip planning. John mentioned that their Google data indicates that people visit 10.2 sources before they actually make a purchase. And you have so many options as a traveler. You can go to an OTA site, you can go to a content travel review site. I mean, there's some supplier.com sites. So you go to many different channels looking for your trip. But what if you have, imagine if you actually have the ability to not just know what somebody is doing on United.com as they did with me, but you have the ability to see behavior of that same consumer, let's say me, across multiple channels. Let's see, you saw me today on US Airways looking for a flight, then you saw me a few hours later on Kayak, or tomorrow looking for the same thing or looking for something different. You saw me on United, you saw me on Expedia. So what if you can collect data on my behavior as a traveler across multiple channels and use that to really build that that deep knowledge of me and where do I fit in your marketing efforts? What am I shopping for today? What am I shopping for in the next 3 months? What are the characteristics you can gather about me, and how much more valuable that data is when it comes from different sources, and how much richer the DNA on me as your potential customer you collect by having so many different sources of information on my travel habits. And then looking at all the different channels you can see me and collect information on me and use that in your marketing efforts. Imagine that, again, across a huge amount of people that you can track across the different channels. So let's say you have 50+ million unique monthly profiles that you can target across multiple different channels. How much more valuable is that? And so that is pretty much what Sojourn focuses and specializes in. We work with a lot of different partners in the travel category, anything from major airline suppliers to different travel content sites. We collect data as people are shopping, as I said, across multiple channels, collect all the information on their behavior, on who they are and what they're interested in, process it through our media platform, and then Tourism Connect is our product that was specifically developed for destination marketers that allows you to do data-driven advertising programs. So listening to the data to really identify the right audiences, ability to target based on very unique characteristics that matter only to you, specifically for the campaign you're working on, really reach the most relevant audiences and at very large scale. And then, of course, we have great optimization tools and measurement tools that allow us to say, hey, these are the people that actually were exposed, that we identified, we exposed them and engaged them with your message, and this is actually how many of them ended up visiting your destination, which is something very unique for destination marketers. In terms of the data processing, as I said, there's so many different characteristics you can collect on a potential customer having access to multiple data sources. So these are just some of the examples. Any of these characteristics by themselves are very valuable. Put together, they're extremely valuable. So, we don't look at this as a Chinese menu and say, hey, I only want to reach people that are arriving in my destination. Yeah, that's very valuable. But when you layer all this other data on top of it, and I have the ability to put these audience targets, which again, makes sense only for you specifically, whichever destination you are based on exactly your objectives, then it becomes so much more valuable. And again, the data that we gather comes through various stages of the travel process, whether you're just in a very early kind of high funnel stage of starting your search, or you just purchased a trip but you're not arriving in the destination for another 45 to 60 to 90 days, so you have that second opportunity to continue the conversation with different messages, or the final check-in when we see you through our boarding pass partnerships with a major airlines and you're about to go to the destination within the next 24 hours. So again, the value of knowledge and all that information and how you can actually customize it to fit the specific objectives of your campaign. And just a very quick kind of recap behind the scenes how the Sojourn machine works. We collect all the data, put it in segments that speak to exactly what your objectives are. We find these people through various channels, whether it's display media, video capabilities, the boarding pass I mentioned, email, any of the different channels we can reach a potential traveler to influence them and engage them with your message. And then, as I said, analyze and optimize performance to make sure that we are hitting exactly the metric that you are trying to achieve. So big data, there's so many different values in using it, and the value of remarketing is incredible. I just wanted to kind of point three that I think are really relevant specifically for destinations and attractions that we have here in the next 2 days. So the first thing that data helps us be smart about is if you are listening to the data, you can get an amazing amount of information and knowledge on your consumers, and you can use that to define the overall direction of your campaign. And I'll show you some specific examples and application of how all those actually apply to DMOs. The second really incredible value for using big data is the ability to do this segmentation of audiences. As I said, advertising is all around us. We cannot escape it no matter where we go, but if it's relevant and if it's reaching the exact audience that you want to be engaging with, it's so much more powerful, and the success of it is so much better. So make sure that you're delivering the right message at the right time to the right audience. And I know this is of huge importance to destinations. I've been to a lot of conferences over the last 6 months, and this seems to be kind of the theme of every single destination. They are really trying to focus on making sure they have the right message at the right time to the right audience. So big data can really help you accomplish that. And the last thing is data enables experimentation. As marketers, there's so many different things we can be doing. We usually have a pretty good understanding of what we want to do and what we want to accomplish. But listening to the data, quite often we are learning about things that perhaps weren't in our initial marketing plan, or it wasn't our target audience, but the data can reveal insights about our potential customer that are very powerful and eventually can change the whole direction of your marketing effort. So I just wanted to show you a couple of examples for each one of those data points. So the first one, as I said, it's so important to listen to the data. The knowledge that you gain about your customers is really helpful. These are some examples of infographics that we put together for destinations. If anybody is interested, we have them on pretty much every single destination. And it's based on both shopping and actual booking travel behavior across all of the different partnerships that we have. So anything from, the look to book window, like how far in advance people are looking before they book to your destination, the book to travel window, which again, most of us know, but it's usually like from a single source. So having this across multiple channels of through shopping and booking behavior. What other destinations people are shopping for at the same time when they're interested in researching or booking your destination? So that knowledge of what else are my customers looking at. So kind of a different take on who your competitive set is. So the data can, point you in different directions than perhaps you were originally thinking. And then what we like to suggest is, don't be so narrow, not even just narrow, but don't be so focus on things that you thought you wanted to accomplish. Just, try to cast a larger net and find these audiences. As John was saying, like a visitor to your destination is a visitor to your destination. They're very valuable regardless of where they're coming from. So even if you didn't think that a specific feeder market was where you should be focusing on, hey, we'll take anybody that wants to come to our destination. So they're a valuable visitor. The second thing that I mentioned that big data really helps us accomplish, especially in destination marketing, is that ability to do segmentation of audiences and to deliver this right message to the right audience at the right time. So I'll use myself as an example. Again, I told you earlier that I have 2 kids. Obviously, if you're Disneyland, if you know this, if you know that I'm in one of your key, California origination markets, you do want to be engaging with me and talking to me about your Halloween time that's happening right now in the park. And I have to admit, I did see an ad, and I was just there last weekend, and it was fantastic. So it did work on me. If you're a destination, let's say in the wine country, and again, you're focusing on attracting people from the Bay Area and wanting people like me to come for the weekend and spend a weekend in the wine country, if you know how to find me and if you know who I am and that I am a potential customer, you can be speaking to me specifically because I fit all of these requirements and I am the right audience for you. Arizona, I said I was there, a great example, either as I was planning my trip or as I had booked, but I wasn't going there for another 30 days, the travel guide is a perfect opportunity to reach out to me and give me a chance to really plan the perfect vacation and the perfect trip to the destination, and so on and so on. So just great examples of how the data can guide us into a direction that we can have a very meaningful and relevant conversation and engage the right audience with your message. And then the last thing that I mentioned is that, and this is one of my favorite things actually about data and the power of it, it really helps us with enabling experimentation. Learning about consumer behavior, habits, what they're searching for, their intent, what they're booking, where they have been, really can help us uncover insights that we previously perhaps weren't considering as part of our marketing plan. And I'll just give you a very specific example. Earlier this year, we launched a program with one of our destination partners, and they came with a very specific list of feeder markets they wanted to target as part of their origination targeting. Well, we looked at all the data, we did a bunch of analysis on, where we see people searching and coming to the destination. There were 2 markets that weren't on the original list that they had given us that popped up. And so we went back and said, hey, there's 2 markets that weren't on the list, but we should really be focusing on and trying to capture that audience and bring them to your destination. So we tried it to the point that those 2 markets became some of the top 2 markets that were actually driving traffic and ultimately visitors to the destination. And with that, they became a part of their bigger overall campaign strategy. So again, just a great indication of how listening to the data and learning about the insights that it reveals, it can help us all be better marketers and ultimately drive more people to your destination. So with that, I thank you very much. I know we're going to have some time for questions.
I'm Carrie with Brand USA. Do you guys have any suggestions on content retargeting for people who advertise in the EU and especially UK with privacy and cookie issues?
Jump right in there.
That's honestly, to be honest with you, is kind of a developing situation to some extent. A lot of the targeting that we do now still follows the same rules, and generally for the campaigns that I've been working on and with clients that I've worked on that work on an international basis, a lot of the Caribbean islands, as you can imagine, extend far out, have kind of just taken the same approach that they've used in the United States. But most of that has been the first-party information that Sylvia was talking about, was just direct to site and the remarketing after that. So I haven't made any big headways in any changes with that. You guys both elaborate?
We're actually just in the process of growing internationally. So Europe is the next market we're going to, and we'll probably have more insights into any of that. But as of right now, we're just kind of operating the way it is.
Next. I've got a question while they're coming up there with them. A lot of the destinations may have co-op programs where they'll go out to hoteliers or attractions or whatever. What's your view about, and you have larger volume maybe with the state organization or larger CVB, what's your thoughts about on retargeting where people are coming to the state or the large CVB website and then retargeting them with a co-op ad?
So we've done some co-op programs to this point where basically the unique page, the destination or the state board will have a specific page to their partner, and that landing page can gather attention. They'll drive traffic to that page specifically in a co-op effort. That page can then have a unique cookie or create its own unique list of people who have visited and shown interest in that particular part of the destination. And then, like I mentioned before, and like Sylvia also mentioned, the creative can then match back to say something specific. So if you had, Colorado, someone expressed an interest in a trip to Denver, and you can have a co-opt ads with the Denver message retargeted to people who have already expressed that interest.
And we do a lot of co-ops with destinations already, and so there's 2 different ways that we look at it. One is we can the destination overall kind of bigger campaign drives people and visitors to the destination, and we have different opportunities for some of the smaller co-op partners, anything from, you know, if it's a local attraction or a restaurant or a hotel, like being on a boarding pass, which is, again, very targeted. Those people are 100% coming to the destination, so you want to then start upselling them with things to do in the destination, or using the data as well, but perhaps linking, as John was saying, to a different section of the site where they are featured, and then you know, play that way.
Great. So a question?
In terms of retargeting ads, the effectiveness and ROI drops off significantly, you know, as measured by, for example, cost per goal completion. So, you know, we've found, for example, 5 impressions across the retargeting network and you start getting significant degradation. What's your experience and advice in this area?
I definitely agree and have seen that happen, and that does happen, that basically you've built up this list of visitors of the people who've come along, and then you continue to maybe target the same people over and over again to the point that it's not getting you the same results. A couple different strategies and variations to make. One is if the ROI is still worth it because the click-through rate has also died, and the conversion ultimately for the people who are coming through is still good, then generally you kind of operate as usual. A refresh of creative can also be really helpful to bump it up and change it out. So I've seen some cases where people have started to experience that issue. They had an offer coming out, they pulled everything back for a week and just turned it off for a week, and then a week later all the creative was refreshed with an offer and something different that just caught their attention. So basically you're just trying to, anything you can do to take down people who've been desensitized to it, but I have seen that happen before, where it does happen over time, and so it does take a couple different things to refresh. And then, you know, going along with that too, one of the other solutions we used, one of the ones I presented with similar users, was taking that information of the list that you do have that isn't growing fast enough to continue to refresh itself, is to find audiences that are remarkably similar, and then do that. So then you're expanding your list and continuing to find fresh people who are interested.
Sylvia, anything to add on that?
Well, the way that we actually do remarketing is slightly different. So for us, it's not really a problem because we do the audience-based remarketing. So we, for every single message, if you wish, we identify the right audience. So we don't just pick you because you search for something once, and we keep, you know, reinforcing and reminding you that, like my Zappos example, you know, buy those red sandals, buy them, buy them, buy them. So it's like based on your current behavior today, or, you know, over time, like you are always better for one campaign over another. So it's just a different form of remarketing. So we don't really have that issue, but ultimately what we focus on is driving. So let's say if you have told us that your end success metric is X percentage, you know, click-through rate or cost per click, whatever, we would just optimize against that, and then continue to find the right audiences that drive that success metric, not just, you know, hammering the same person with a message hoping that, oh yeah, they finally buy. So just looking for constantly new audiences that are the perfect fit for your message.
Okay. In the back here, young lady.
It is retargeting kind of some of the same people. And do you have anything, suggestions on not only the creative, the ads, but how often should the landing page or what you're sending them to change with the offer based on any of the research you've seen?
So that's a great question. And you know what? I mean, ultimately, you are the decision maker of how you want to communicate to your potential visitors to your destination. I think that the one thing that I've been working with destination marketers for 12 years now, the one thing that I always say is you have to be relevant, right? If something is happening in your market, you have to let people know about it. You shouldn't wait until they get to your website to find that out. And to the point that I was making earlier, we have the ability to find different people that you can engage with different messaging. So in my case, if you're talking to somebody in a very high funnel, like search phase, you do want to engage them with one message, right, that talks to what they're doing right now. if it's somebody that just booked, but again is not arriving to your destination for another 60 days or whatever period of time, then you perhaps want to communicate something different to them and engage them in a different way. And then if you can see them 24 hours before they arrive in the destination, then you have the final opportunity to like encourage them to, hey, take a day trip here or do something else. So my suggestion is, my answer is, it's really up to you, but you have the ability to be creative and you have the ability to be very relevant and customize your message based on who you're talking to at any given time you're actually reaching them.
I would say also, as far as the creative and the landing page relationship goes, if you are changing your creative or changing your landing page, make sure that the relationship between the two matches. Keep the themes the same, so that'll kind of dictate some of your changes automatically, that you've just made creative changes or offer changes, or some new feature has come up, or a new festival, or whatever it is that's you're promoting at that particular time. As long as you're making sure those two things match, that'll dictate it a lot. And then some of the other things are different as far as how often you change creative based on your list size. So if you're targeting really large groups and you're targeting broadly, you might have a longer list, so you might be able to go a little longer with the same creative. If you are getting a little more narrow, then it's a much smaller group of people that you've probably hit quite a few times. And then there's also some distinctions made if you are changing your creative depending on where they went on your website. So you might have some sort of rotation that will go along with that as well.